Man once belonged to a world of meaning, a world of divine awareness, purpose, and spiritual connection. But gradually, he turned away from that world. He disconnected himself from the realm of meaning and attached his heart to the material world. Today, man lives in a world where he feels like a stranger. His soul feels displaced, his heart feels restless, and his spirit complains silently. Yet constantly, the soul cries because it has been cut off from its original home. To heal this complaint, to reconnect creation with the Creator, humanity needs guidance. Humanity needs a path. That path is called Tasawwuf. What are the realities that Sufis begin to see which others cannot? Do they see with different eyes or with purified hearts? Is it the unseen world, the truth behind events, or the hidden wisdom within suffering that becomes clear to them? But what is Tasawwuf really? Who is a Sufi in reality? What do Fana and Baka truly mean? What is that station where a person's very existence dissolves? Through which spiritual stages does a human being pass to become a Sufi? In this video, we will step beyond appearances. We will uncover the meaning of the Sufi path, the stages of inner purification, and the truth behind Fana. We will learn what Sufis perceive through purified hearts, and how this spiritual journey transforms restlessness into peace. This is not a journey away from the world. It is a journey within, toward the soul's return to its Creator. So what is Tasawwuf? Tasawwuf is the science of the heart in Islam. It is the inner journey of a human being toward Allah, where faith is not only believed but experienced, not only practiced but felt, not only spoken but lived. While Islam gives us law to regulate our actions, Tasawwuf concerns itself with the state of the heart behind those actions. It asks not only what we do, but why we do it, and who we are becoming through it. At its core, Tasawwuf is about purification, the purification of intention, desire, ego, and attachment. It is the effort to remove everything from the heart that stands between the servant and his Lord. Pride, jealousy, greed, hypocrisy, anger, and love of status are not treated as small flaws in Tasawwuf. They are seen as spiritual veils. As long as these veils remain, the heart cannot reflect divine light. Tasawwuf exists to polish that heart until it becomes a clear mirror. When people hear the word Tasawwuf, many assume it is something new, something added later into Islam, or something influenced by other traditions. But when we step back and look carefully, not emotionally, not defensively, but historically and spiritually, we realize that Tasawwuf is not a foreign addition. It is the inner life of Islam itself, the soul behind the structure, the spirit within the law. Tasawwuf did not suddenly appear as a movement. It did not begin as an organized system. It emerged naturally from the deepest human need, the need to understand existence, meaning, suffering, and the relationship between the human soul and the divine. This need is as old as humanity itself. From the moment human beings became aware of themselves, they began asking questions that no material object could answer. Who am I? Why am I here? What lies beyond this life? Why does the heart feel empty, even when the hands are full? Throughout early human history, long before written philosophy or organized theology, there were individuals who felt that life could not be reduced to survival alone. They withdrew into silence, reflected deeply, disciplined their desires, and searched for something beyond the visible world. This inner search is not unique to one culture or civilization. It appears wherever human consciousness awakens. In ancient India, Buddhist monks renounced luxury and comfort, seeking liberation from suffering through discipline, silence, and awareness. In early Hindu mystical traditions, yogis practiced detachment from the material world, believing that the ego and desire veil ultimate truth. In ancient China, Taoist sages spoke of harmony, inner balance, and living according to a higher, unseen order. In early Christianity, monks retreated into deserts, fasting and praying, seeking purity of heart and closeness to God. In Judaism, mystics searched for hidden meanings within divine revelation. These traditions may differ in belief theology, and worldview, but they share a common human impulse: the recognition that the outer world cannot satisfy. The inner hunger. Let's learn the concepts of fana and baqa in the language of Tasawwuf. Fana does not mean physical death, nor does it mean the disappearance of human existence. Rather, fana refers to the dissolution of the ego, the fading away of self-centeredness, pride, and the false sense of independence from Allah. It is the state in which a person no longer sees himself as the center of reality, but recognizes that all power, will, and existence belong to Allah alone. In fana, the servant's attachment to his own desires, reputation, and control begins to collapse, and the heart becomes empty of everything except the awareness of God. The great Sufis explained that fana is not achieved through isolation or imagination, but through sincere obedience, constant remembrance. As the ego weakens, the illusion of I slowly dissolves. The seeker no longer worships Allah to be seen, rewarded, or praised, but because worship itself becomes a response of love and recognition. At this stage, even good deeds no longer feel like personal achievements, because the heart understands that all ability comes from Allah. However, fana is not the end of the journey. In fact, it is only a doorway. After the ego fades, the servant is returned to the world in a new state known as baqa. Baqa means remaining with Allah, while living in creation. In this state, the individual regains awareness of the world, but without ego, without arrogance, and without attachment. He lives, works, speaks, and serves, yet his heart remains firmly connected to God. Baqa is the station where spiritual awareness and practical life merge. The seeker does not withdraw from society. Instead, he becomes more useful to it. Compassion replaces judgment. Humility replaces superiority. Wisdom replaces impulse. The person no longer acts from personal desire, but from clarity, mercy, and responsibility. This is why the greatest Sufis were not hidden figures in caves, but active guides within their communities. Imam Junaid Baghdadi described this balance beautifully when he said, "Tasawwuf is that Allah causes you to die to yourself and live through him." This statement captures the relationship between fana and baqa. Fana is the death of ego, and baqa is the life of meaning. Fana removes the false self, and baqa restores the true self, a self aligned with divine will. It is also important to understand that fana does not mean union with God in a literal sense, nor does baqa mean divinity. Islamic tasawwuf firmly rejects such interpretations. The servant always remains a servant, and Allah always remains the creator. What changes is not the reality of existence, but the perception of the heart. The veil of ego is lifted, and reality is seen as it truly is. In simple terms, fana is forgetting oneself, and baqa is remembering Allah while living responsibly in the world. Fana frees the heart from false identity, and baqa anchors the soul in purpose. Together, they represent the transformation from self-centered existence to God-centered living. This is why the Sufis taught that the goal of tasawwuf is not mystical experiences, visions, or extraordinary states, but the refinement of character and the deepening of sincerity. Because a person who has tasted fana and lives in baqa does not claim greatness, he becomes a source of peace. That station where a person's very existence seems to dissolve is known in tasawwuf as fana, not the disappearance of the body, but the fading of the ego, the false sense of I that claims independence from Allah. In this state, a human being no longer lives from pride, desire, or self, but from awareness, humility, and surrender, recognizing that all power, will, and existence belong to God alone. Reaching this station is not sudden, nor mystical in isolation. It comes through a gradual journey of inner purification. A person passes through spiritual stages that begin with self-awareness and repentance, followed by discipline of the ego, struggle against destructive desires, cultivation of sincerity, patience, gratitude, and constant remembrance of Allah as the heart is cleansed. Attachments weaken, intentions become pure, and worship transforms from habit into presence. Eventually, the seeker moves from being occupied with the self to being absorbed in obedience and love of God. From this dissolution of ego, return to life with clarity and balance, where the individual lives in the world with responsibility, compassion, and wisdom, while the heart remains firmly anchored in divine awareness. At its core is the journey from the self to the truth. It is not an escape from life, but a transformation of how life is lived, where the ego fades, the heart awakens, and the soul returns to its true purpose. Through Fana and Baka, a human being learns to dissolve in the remembrance of Allah, and then live again with wisdom, mercy, and balance. This is the path of the Sufis, not to abandon the world, but to illuminate it with divine awareness.